What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, spitting statistician Dane Martinez, and today we continue to talk about some of the things we saw at OTAs and some of the things that are continuing to build with the green and white, whether it be new players on the roster or a new attitude and a new culture under the new brain trust with GM Darren Muji and, of course, new head coach Aaron Glenn. And we start the way, honestly, we have started a few shows recently talking about what Justin Fields can actually do. I have been telling you about Justin Fields' development as a passer, the way he has looked in minicamp and OTAs with better technique, better footwork, some of the absolute dimes he is throwing there. Again, everyone looks good in a t-shirt and shorts, but not only is it the development he has, but his unique skill set as a dual threat quarterback. I tell you about how Aaron Glenn got a front row seat to that when he was in Detroit. And here's something that is interesting. It's good to hear it from me, but it's even better to hear it from all pro defensive lineman that is his new teammate. Check out what Quinnen Williams had to say about Justin Fields, his development, his impact, and specifically his speed as a dual threat quarterback. Remember I told you they tracked him at practice with the next gen stats going over 21 miles an hour? Yeah? Well, guess what? Quinnen Williams co-signs that, and he wouldn't want to have to chase Justin Fields around. Check it out. He goes, he's a guy who can run extremely fast and throw bombs down the field. There's some different things he brings in terms of being a dual threat quarterback. I feel he's one of the top 5 dual threat quarterbacks in the league right now. I chased him a couple times today and was like, yeah, he's fast. I think that definitely brings an excitement and just his attitude on wanting to win and show the world what he can do and what we all know he can do. I think this speaks to a couple of things we have talked about here on Just Latest, right? Both in terms of the kind of dual threat nature and how that added element of an offense is so good. Quinnen is talking about Justin Fields as one of the top 5 running quarterbacks in the league right now, right? His statistical production would show that as well. I'm talking about rushing production on par with guys like Jalen Hurts, with guys like Josh Allen, with guys like Lamar Jackson, both in terms of what they do rushing touchdowns and rushing yards. Obviously, there's guys like the revelation Jaden Daniels in Washington as well. But, if Fields continues to develop behind a better offensive line than he's ever had, he will be able to do more as a passer. And of course, that ability as a runner is something that I've told you Aaron Glenn saw up close, where Justin Fields, who's run for 500-yard games, third most in NFL history behind only Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson, had 3 of them against Aaron Glenn and Detroit, 147 yards and 132 yards. His 2 games against the Lions in 2022, and then in 2023, another game where he ran for 104 yards. So being able to see that up close, Quinnen Williams is co-signing what he can do as a running quarterback. And then the other thing he said is just like his attitude, right? Wanting to win and show the world what he can do. We have talked about kind of how many quarterbacks these days have had a new second act, right? With another organization that believed in them better than their first stop after they were a high-end draft pick. I'm talking about guys like Baker Mayfield. I'm talking about guys like what Sam Darnold did in Minnesota. I'm talking about guys like what Geno Smith did in his second act in Seattle, right? Or even to bring it back to the Detroit Lions and how what we're seeing with Aaron Glenn could be a comp over there from Detroit. What about Jared Goff, right? Who was a throw-in at the Matthew Stafford trade after being number 1 overall for the Rams, and look at what he has done in Detroit. I really believe that here with Tanner Engstrand as the OC, an organization that believes in him, it could be a little bit different. That's what Quinnen Williams had to say, and more people are saying the same thing. It could be some sneaky upside for Justin Fields. Another thing around Quinnen Williams is there's kind of been an open question on who's going to start next to Quinnen Williams on the interior defensive line. A lot of people thought that this was kind of a need area that was going to be addressed, whether it be in free agency or in the draft, and they didn't draft a guy, right? We were talking about guys like Tyleek Williams and others that could have been drafted, but they did address this in free agency. Early on in free agency, right, there was a wave of guys. Tufele they got a run stuffer in Derek Nottie, but they also signed out of the Chicago Bears Byron Coward. And Coward is apparently flashing in OTAs. Okay, there are a lot of reports that he is getting pressures on the quarterback, that he looks good, got a couple of sacks or what would be sacks in kind of those practice periods. So I want to remind you, we signed Coward to only a 1-year, $1.36 million deal. He was a guy who flashed at times in Chicago, another guy that's in his mid to late 20s, so fitting that young brand, building competition. He has been in 51 games. He's only started 21 games so far in the NFL. 3.5 sacks, 67 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, and only hit the quarterback 7 times. You would say, his PFF numbers, slightly above average, right? In 2024, his PFF grade was 86th out of 219 defensive linemen. His 12 pressures, again, 86th among 219 defensive linemen. His 17 tackles last year, 74th among 219 defensive tackles. So slightly above average, but I gotta tell you something. You only need to be slightly above average if you've got Quinnen Williams next to you, right? Like he, along with guys like Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald on the edge, they're going to get a lot of attention. So Coward just needs to win his one-on-one matchups, right? And this is another reason I think, again, we talk about intentionality with the Jets and what they were doing in free agency. I think they saw Coward as a guy who could move up with some development, some coaching, being next to a guy like Quinnen Williams. And then remember, they also got Noddy. And Noddy is more of the big-time run stuffer. He is 317 pounds, more of a pure nose who can stuff the run. And I think they're going to use Noddy in run situations, but they may use Coward as the kind of every down or early down kind of guy right next to Quinnen Williams. So we will see about that, but it's good to see that some of these guys are flashing, are showing that they can produce in OTAs, and Coward is certainly one of them. The other thing that I would say, what we are seeing in OTAs is we're seeing everybody there. It is all in on this culture for the New York Jets, and Aaron Glenn talked about this in front of the microphone. Listen to what he had to say. I give a lot of credit to the players throughout our phases. The amount of guys who've been here, the work they've put in. I think we had 100% participation. These men want to win, and these men want to work. And it's this coaching staff who wants to do everything they can to give them the tools to be successful. Anytime we can get reps on the grass, we're going to take advantage of that. I think this really is important because what do I keep on talking about here? Building a culture. And I think it's important that we are hearing it globally from everybody. We're hearing it from guys like Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, even Sauce and G5 who are waiting on extensions. They said they want to be here, they want to show up, they want to be a part of what is building. We saw it with guys like the free agents that were signed, who literally cited Aaron Glenn as one of the main reasons they came over. We heard that from Justin Fields. We heard that from Brandon Stevens and others. Guys want to be here. We heard about that from draft picks, right? When guys like Malachi Moore were saying there's not a better place I can go to, or guys like A.Z. Thomas were saying they're so excited to be coached by Aaron Glenn. This is the culture that is building right now with the green and white, and I think it is evident by the fact that everyone is showing up, everyone is working hard, and Aaron Glenn notes that in OTAs. And the funny part is, juxtapose that against what we saw previously. Aaron Rodgers, for example, still has not decided if he even wants to play football this season, right? Holding the Steelers hostage, if you want to know the truth. That is a stark contrast to kind of being in the building, loving football, loving getting together and building something. I think the Jets made a great decision, not only with letting Aaron Rodgers walk, but with getting Aaron Glenn as their new head coach. He saw this in Detroit, where Dan Campbell built the Detroit Lions from an 0-16 laughingstock to a true contender in the NFC. And if we are patient and we give it some time, it can be the same way here for the Jets, Jets. That'll do it for this episode of Jets Latest. Remember to like these videos, subscribe to the channel, tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend, because we are giving you daily information about the Jets, Jets. We're going to be doing it all summer long, and it's going to be an exciting season for the green and white. So get in early now, get in on the ground floor. And if you want to hear more from me, the spitting statistician Dane Martinez, remember, I am the host of the FTN Fantasy Show over on SiriusXM channel 87. That's the fantasy channel. We do more than talk just the Jets. We talk a lot about fantasy football coming up, fantasy baseball, right? But it all sports. We got the NBA and NHL playoffs going on. FTN is a great fantasy website, a lot of tools, a lot of data. We give you everything to give you the edge as a fantasy player and as a sports gambler. So check that out as well. But this will be it here for this episode of Jets Latest. We'll be back tomorrow with more things going on in the green and white as we have more OTA OTA sessions later on this week. We'll give you the analysis, we'll give you what we hear, and the implications for the 2025 JETS Jets. That'll do it for this episode. We'll see you tomorrow. We out of here. Peace.